What's up, everybody? Welcome to Touchdown Texas, episode 38. I'm your host, Shiva Patel, and my co-host here, Nick Rodriguez. We took a few weeks of a break, but we're back. We're getting closer to college football. Only 6 more Saturdays left. SEC Media Day right around the corner. But Nick, how you doing, man? Did you have a good holiday weekend?
I did. Weather was great. Hit the pool, did some grilling, but definitely ready to talk some Texas football again. And I'm excited. Great show ahead.
For sure. So be sure to follow us on our social media channels at touchdown_Texas. And be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and go back and watch our previous episodes that me and Nick have been doing. We've been having some good off-season content as we ramp up to get closer to the season. Let's talk about the first topic. So this is a very interesting list that came out. Ian Boyd from Inside Texas had a list of Texas's toughest games of 2025. Georgia number 1, Florida 2, Ohio State 3, Oklahoma 4, and A&M 5. Do you agree with this list?
I think number 1 and number 2 for me would be at Georgia and at Ohio State. Definitely, especially Ohio State. That's where we start the season. Obviously, that's where our season ended last year. That's the reigning champs. So at Ohio State would be number 1 for me, but number 2 would be at Georgia. I'm completely fine with that. Looking at the rest of their top 5 would be Florida, Oklahoma, and A&M. I think those are definitely going to be tougher than any other game that we're going to play this season. Florida is going to be extremely tough with a healthy DJ Lagway. Oklahoma, even though it's a neutral site, that game is always extremely tough, so I'm fine with that spot right there. And A&M, it's a rivalry game. This one will be at home for us. It's really the only game of those 5 that are at home because Oklahoma is really a neutral site. But yeah, I think those are definitely the top 5 toughest games for me. There's at Kentucky, there's at Mississippi State, there's Arkansas at home, but I think these were the top 5. The only thing I would really change is I'd have Ohio State as the toughest one. I'd have Georgia 2, and then I'm cool with Florida being 3, OU 4, and A&M 5. But yeah, I agree with this list for the most part.
So I think that Ohio State should be number 2 because, it's the first game of the season. There's a lot of hype around this game. Ohio State was the national champions. The reason I'm cool with Georgia at being number 1 is they actually have the longest home winning streak in the country at 38 straight games they've won at home. So hey, that streak may be broken by the time Texas comes because they play Alabama before they do Texas. So let's see if they can beat Alabama. But I just think that with Georgia, it's such a pivotal game in the SEC because whoever wins that game will have an inside track to getting to the SEC championship. They'll have more room for error, and they'll have the leg up on the other team going into late in the postseason. Also for home field advantage in the playoffs if you do make it. So that's such a huge game for Texas, and I think that we're really going to show out because we've not lost a home game or a road game since 2022 Oklahoma State. So we've been on a long winning streak. Florida is going to be tough. It's going to be in October, so the humidity will be a little bit high there as we're going deep into the swamp. It's the most likely be a night game, so the weather may play an impact there. Oklahoma, of course, they're going to have a better team this year with a better quarterback in John Mateer, so they're going to put up more force than they did last year. But I actually think A&M is going to be the tougher game to win. A&M has been recruiting really well, and they've really built up a lot of talent. A lot of their seniors came back. Marcel Reed is going to be improved, and A&M is going to want to get back at us after we went into College Station and won last year. So they're going to be looking to get some revenge. But an underrated game is going to be at Kentucky. It's going to be a night game. I don't know how Kentucky is going to be as a team, but it's just a tough place to win. Ask Georgia. Last year, Georgia won 20-19, I believe. It was like a 1-point game when Georgia was the better team. So I think those games are going to be really interesting. Texas does have a tougher schedule this year. But what are your thoughts about that, Nick? Texas is playing more harder games, and they're playing better quarterbacks this year.
Well, a lot of the quarterbacks we played this year, we also played last year. It's just some of them are going to be at home, or some of them are away instead of at home. We avoided DJ Lagway. He was hurt at the time, so we didn't get to play DJ Lagway. Georgia, they're having a whole different quarterback. Although we did play him in the SEC championship game in Stockton. So, yeah, it is going to be different guys. Similar teams for the most part, just flipping if they're home and away. My outside top 5 team that I think that could be challenging to us, I like the Kentucky pick, especially on the road. They're always a problem and a thorn for some teams. I believe they beat Ole Miss last year. So mine would be Arkansas. This game would be at home for Texas, which is great, but we struggled in that game. I mean, it was really back and forth. Our offense could not get it going until the very, very end. End up winning. But that could be a tough one. They'd be coming into our barn. It's an old school rivalry. They hate us. We hate them. So this would be a tough one for me. I do ultimately think we beat Arkansas, but it could be a nail biter and one that's a little scary. Depending on where it falls in the season, it could be like, whoa. This is looking a little weary here. But I think ultimately we get away with that one. But that one could be a little scary at times.
That's going to be a trap game because Arkansas is the senior day for – oh, no, sorry. A&M is at home. It's the game before Texas A&M. That's going to be our second to last home game of the season. Taylor Green last year, Arkansas's quarterback, showed some flashes. Let's see how much he's improved as a passer. But Arkansas lost some weapons that they had last year. They don't have as good of a running game, but still, Arkansas is going to come out firing, like Nick said. It's going to be an underrated, tough game and a great – for the old timers out there, that's going to be a great flashback to all the rivalry that we had with Arkansas before we were even in the Big 12. So that's going to be a vintage game for sure. So now let's move on. So we had a 2026 college football playoff bracket prediction via On3, and Nick, they had Texas winning the championship. They had us beating Oregon, Ohio State, and Clemson. Do you see this scenario happening?
I like the path that we would have here. Illinois, Oregon playing each other in the first round. We get Oregon. I feel like we would match up pretty well against Oregon. They have yet to show that they can advance very far in the playoffs. So I feel like that could be a good matchup for us. They're also breaking in a new quarterback. We get a revenge matchup against Ohio State. We'll see how it goes in week 1. Do we win that one? Is that why we're number 1 seed? I would imagine so. Looks like we're probably also SEC champs with this as well. And I could definitely see this. Are we playing Clemson in the final? How does this work?
Yep. Clemson.
Okay. So, yeah, I could definitely see this path. So we're beating Oregon, we're beating Ohio State, you're right, in the semis, and then we beat Clemson in the final. Absolutely. Just looking at some of the other teams in here, Boise makes another return. LSU jumps in. There's been a lot of hype around Illinois. Bama jumps back in. Georgia's in, but they're a way lower seed. BYU, Notre Dame. Penn State is the 2 seed. So, and of course, Clemson. So I could definitely see this. This would actually be a very, very favorable matchup for us. We avoid Georgia. We avoid Penn State. The only real one we have to play is Ohio State, and that'd be at the, in the semifinals again. So, yeah, I think this would be good. And more importantly, this would be a very good scenario if we are able to land this path.
It would be, actually, because Oregon, they're a really talented team, but they're not the same team that they were last year, breaking in a new quarterback. Let's see, their defense is going to be really solid, but can they continue to be the same offense that they were last year, lighting up the scoreboard? But what catches me before I get to Texas was BYU making it out of the Big 12. Not Kansas State, not Arizona State, Texas not Tech, Colorado. Right. That's very interesting. Boise State, I don't see without Genty, they're not going to make it back to the playoffs. They might not even win 5 games next year. So that's a little rich of a pick for me. Maybe like an Army or Navy if they had the season again like they did last year. Maybe that can be the group of 5 team. Illinois, I like the pick. Luke Altmaier is a really good quarterback, and he's coming back for Illinois. Let's see how Illinois is able to gel into the Big Ten. But I like Texas's path a lot. Oregon is a game that we should be able to win, especially that it's at a neutral site game because Oregon's always going to have the speed. But whenever they go against like these tougher teams like Ohio State and SEC teams, they always seem to struggle. They can never, match that physicality that those SEC teams had. Ohio State, I love that game, especially if we lose in week 1. That is a revenge game. Even though their quarterback, Julian Sain, is going to be much more improved from week 1 to the semifinals of the playoffs, he's still a redshirt freshman. So he hasn't really experienced that big stage. So I like that matchup. And Clemson, A lot of people are high on Clemson, and this is kind of a now or never year for Dabo Swinney. Can he put himself up in the upper echelon of the college football coaching world again, or is he just going to be a mediocre coach that happened to win 2 national championships? They had the talent. We saw me and Nick both like Cade Klubnik. He's a dual threat quarterback that's going to give us problems. Those freshman wide receivers are now going to be sophomores. That defense is bringing back. They're going to have 3 first-round picks on that defense. TJ Parker, Peter Woods, and Avion Terrell. So that Clemson defense is going to be tough, but I think this is a very realistic path. Only thing I disagree with is, as I put this back up, is that I don't see Alabama beating Georgia. In that scenario, I think Georgia would win, and then we would play Penn State in the semifinals instead of Alabama. That's the only thing that I would change, but I would have us beating Penn State. And I think that I'm kind of changing my pick now. I've always said that 2026 season was the year that we're going to win the championship, but I'm starting to like how the cards are rolling this year. I like the transfers that we brought in. I like Arch Manning at quarterback. I think this is the year that we could really win the championship. On your confidence scale of 0 to 10, what number would you say that we will win a national championship this year?
That we will win a national championship? Yeah. 8.5. It's pretty high up there for me. I think, like you said, Sark has been at Texas for a long time now. It's completely his team. It's been his team now for a few years. He's got the guys that he wants. We've picked up a lot of transfers. This is Arch Manning. This is his first full year starting, but he played a handful of games, and he played a handful of big moments last year. This will be big. But we also get him for another year also. So how much is the receivers going to develop? It's going to be up to Ryan Wingo. It's going to be up to some other guys, some young guys. If the young guys can click, we can absolutely win a national championship. I'm still worried about Georgia. I'm still keeping Ohio State on my mind. Oregon can always do something. Notre Dame can always do something. Penn State. It could come down to health. But everything that Arch has shown us, and yes, it is a small sample size, and he didn't – always playing the biggest games, although he had big moments against Georgia. He had big moments against A&M, and he always played well. So we'll just see how he handles it as the guy. Everything that's been thrown out of him his entire life, high school to now, he's knocked out of the park. So I got nothing but faith in Arch and a running game and defense. So I don't see why we wouldn't be, and we are, one of the favorites to not only win the SEC, but win a national championship. So, yeah, I'm pretty high. I go 8.5. Yeah, I'll lock in 8.5. I can't say 9 yet. Maybe after we beat Ohio State, I'll go up to a 9. But yeah, I'm 8.5 right now.
Okay, I'm not far from behind you. I'm at 8. And I was, I said, I was kind of skeptical about this team. Not because of the talent, just because we're going to be super young. But as you know, you can never miss these opportunities, fail to capitalize on them. You never know how many years you're going to be contending. We think we're going to be contending for the long haul, but when these opportunities come, you have to take advantage of them, like Georgia did, like Alabama did in their run. So a team to watch out for is Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman is building a powerhouse. He's recruiting well, getting transfer players from the portal. They are breaking in another young quarterback. That might be the theme of this college football season. Teams breaking in new quarterbacks, and whatever team quarterback can able to step up, and it may be the team that wins. But Notre Dame is a team that I will watch out for. But I would like to play Notre Dame in the finals. If it's a Texas Notre Dame national championship, that would be pretty. That would be fireworks, and it would be must-see TV.
That would be awesome.
So now let's talk about top 5 receivers in the country. So they rated this because a new college football 2026 game recently came out. No surprise here. Jeremiah Smith 1, 98 overall. Ryan Williams 2. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, who Texas did not see because he was injured at the end of the season, at 3. Elijah Surratt from Indiana 4, and Elijah Rivers from Georgia Tech 5. So let's talk about Ryan Wingo, Nick. Did he get snubbed from this list?
I honestly don't think so. And really it's because he was a freshman last year. You got to keep in mind we had Matthew Golden on the team. We had Gunnar Helm on the team. We had Isaiah Bond on the team. So he was not always the primary number one weapon. Now, skill level, is he up there with these guys? I think so, but I think there's a clear number one wide receiver in college football right now, and it's obviously Jeremiah Smith. He's got great size, he's got great power, he's got great speed. Ryan Williams, to me, is not far behind that. He's slender, he's smooth, great route runner. We just haven't seen enough of Wingo yet as the number one guy. I think if we do this next year, he could easily find himself in the top 3, top 4, top 5. Some of these guys won't even be here next year. But no, I don't think he's quite subbed yet because he wasn't the number one guy on the Texas. He could have been 3 or 4 at times, including Jaden Blue as a running back coming out of the backfield. So I don't think he's snubbed here. Ryan Williams was their go-to guy. Jeremiah Smith was their go-to guy. Jordan Tyson was the go-to guy. No, I do think he's top 5 talent. I just don't think he was seen enough and had enough action. But I think he could easily crack this next year.
He definitely can. So it's an obvious top 2. I don't need to rehash what Nick just said. Everybody that watched college football knows that those 2 are the top 2 wide receivers in the country. They put up the production. They were unstoppable in big games. But I want to give a shout out to Jordan Tyson from Arizona State. He was a huge loss for Arizona State. So last year, I'll read you his stats. He finished with 1,101 yards. He had some huge games. Against Arizona, he had 143 yards. BYU, he had 125 yards. Kansas State, he had 176 yards. So he put up some big-time yards. He's a guy that he can be up there, the upper echelon wide receivers. I like Surratt is getting some love from Indiana because he was their number one guy last year. He made a lot of huge plays for Curtis Rourke as Indiana made it to the playoffs. Chris Rivers, I watched some Georgia Tech games. He didn't really flash off by screen, but I think he's a solid possession wide receiver. But as Ryan Wingo gets more reps, is a number one guy, he's going to put up the production because he has the size, he has the ball skills, he fights for the ball, he's very competitive, he works on his craft, he runs really good routes. So I think Ryan Wingo can be up there at number 3 on this list next year, maybe even number 2 if one of Jeremiah Smith or Ryan Williams has a down year, a sophomore slump. As one of them may have a sophomore slump, Ryan Wingo may elevate as a sophomore. He has just as many skills. He's just as talented. He was a 5-star for a reason, and he's going to be a household name in college football because Texas plays in a lot of big games, so the country is going to know Ryan Wingo, and I'm very, very excited to see him ball out this year. So now let's talk about a list that was very interesting. They ranked the top 10 greatest college football quarterbacks ever. Joe Burrow is 1, Trevor Lawrence is 2, Cam Newton is 3, Tim Tebow is 4, and Michael Vick is 5. Nick, now I got to ask you again, should Vince Young be on this list?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's a national championship winner. He was in the Heisman running multiple years of his career. One's the most iconic national championship of all time. Beats the 2-time USC Trojans. He's our last national champion as a Texas Longhorn. He was the number 2 pick in the NFL draft in early 2000s. So I don't see why he's not on here. He won the Rose Bowl. He beat Michigan. I don't know why he's not on this top 5. I don't know why he's not in the top 10. Half of these guys don't even have a national championship, and half of these guys I don't think are as talented as Vince Young. I'm okay with Burrow. I'm okay with Cam, but we can break this list one by one. But Vince Young absolutely deserves to be not only in the top 10, but to me he's top 5.
Okay, I like that for sure. So would you rank him over Cam Newton, Tim Tebow, or Michael Vick?
Not Tim Tebow, yes. Michael Vick, yes. I'm fine with Joe Burrow and Cam Newton being over him. Trevor Lawrence, no. I'd knock Trevor Lawrence down. I would have Joe Burrow, Cam Newton, Vince, and then you can throw in who you want to throw in. But yeah, so that's probably my top 3 in some order: Burrow, Cam, Vince.
Okay, so I think he should be over Michael Vick. I would rank Joe Burrow 1. I would rank Tim Tebow 2 just because they won a championship and he revolutionized college football just by the way he ran in that Florida team with all the stars. He was the catalyst for that team. I would rank
Mm-hmm.
Vince Young. No, excuse me. I would rank Cam Newton 3 just because that Auburn team, they had an improbable run to the national championship. Nobody even expected them to go there. You remember that game against Alabama when he absolutely went
Mm-hmm.
crazy, and then
The
in the
big
national
comeback.
championship.
Yep.
Yep. So I would rank Cam Newton 3. I would rank Vince Young number 4. Then I got to do it, Texas fans. I'm sorry, but I would put Johnny Manziel at number 5 just because he
I'm fine
won a
with that.
Heisman and he made college football very popular, especially
Yeah.
with people that don't usually watch college football because he had the charisma. He was just a guy that everybody was just attracted to, and he's Johnny Football. We remember that play against Alabama where he lost the ball, picked it up, and still threw a touchdown pass. Like that was
Yeah.
insane. Even though Sam Bradford is not far behind, Sam Bradford was an amazing quarterback, but I don't
He's
think
not
that did
top
that
10.
OU team ever win a championship, Nick, with Sam
No,
Bradford?
no, they got smoked by Florida.
Oh, you're right. Thank you.
That was
Thank
the
you.
year that was the year we lost to Texas Tech in 2008, and there was all that BCS stuff. So we ended up having like this tiebreaker. We beat OU. I think OU beat Tech. Tech beat us. So we finished like we didn't get into that game, and I'm pretty sure Florida, which would have been 2008, which would have been Tebow, like smacked OU. I'm pretty sure. I'm
No,
almost
they did.
positive on that. So no,
Man,
Bradford
man,
was
we go
great. I
hard.
just do not think he was 7. Like he wasn't that good. I mean, Tebow. I would have Tebow 4. So I would go Burrow 1, Cam 2, Vince 3, Tebow 4, and I agree. Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel was 5. I mean, I hated Johnny Football, but he was so good for college football. The way, like you said, the way he beat Alabama. That's one of A&M's only double-digit winning seasons. I mean, he was electric. Obviously, won the Heisman. Many of these guys won the Heisman. Vince Young actually is the only one who didn't win the Heisman in my top 5. But yeah, Bradford was a great player, really, really good player, really underrated player. But I'm shocked they have him 7. It's honestly disrespectful to Johnny Manziel because
No, it
Johnny
is.
Manziel took over the league. Vic, if you do like most iconic. You don't even. I mean, yeah, he was iconic at Virginia Tech. I'm not trying to say that, but he's more
How
known
good were
for
those Virginia Tech teams, though? Those
They didn't win a
Virginia
national
teams.
championship.
Oh, okay.
Is that Dan Marino 10th?
Yep, and Vinny Testaverde is number 9.
I know Testaverde won a championship. Andrew Luck. I'm good with Andrew Luck being 8. Or Andrew Luck to me would be like another guy that's very underrated. Didn't win a championship at Stanford, but this is Stanford we're talking about. It's kind of like Georgia Tech and like Navy, where you have to have a certain requirement to be able to go to that school. He and Coach Harbaugh made them really, really good. And they were damn close. He did not win the Heisman, but he came second to this guy named RG3. And Baylor was good back then. I know you remember that. So that was an exciting time. But Bradford, maybe the most underrated player of all time, or one of them. Injuries beat him up in his entire career, but he's not a top 7 player of all time. To me, to be top 10, you either need a Heisman, national championship, or both.
Yeah,
top 10.
I agree.
So
I agree with that. So just going back to Michael Vick, they made it to the national championship game in 2000, but they lost to Bobby Bowden in Florida State. So I asked how good Florida State was. Virginia Tech was. I apologize for that. This was in 2000. I was a young kid at that time, but so they were really good. So I take that back. But I'm still not going to rank him in the top 5. He's like number 7, number 8. But even though they did make it to a national championship game. So this list that I think is the most overrated and the highest was Trevor Lawrence. Yes, they won a national championship,
easy.
and they did beat Alabama. They did beat Nick Saban, so you have to give him that. But his freshman year, he was really, really good when he won the championship. He was awesome. But his sophomore and junior year, he took a decline, even though he made the playoffs both of those years. And it was more the Clemson defense was really good than Trevor Lawrence actually, making plays. So I would put not Trevor Lawrence down. A lot of people are going to say Joe Burrow only did it for 1 year at college because he was at Ohio State previously, but LSU was dead in the water the year before, and they were like 8-4. They were going to fire Orgeron, but Joe Burrow comes out and absolutely balls, has one of the greatest college football seasons as a quarterback in the history of the game. So you have to. I'm fine with Joe Burrow 1. Again, I'm going to put Cam Newton 2, just because, or excuse me, Tim Tebow 2, just because he won a championship with the Florida Gators and just his running style was very fun to watch. Cam Newton 3 because of that improbable run that he had with Auburn. I would have Vince Young 4, and then Johnny Manziel number 5. And Johnny Manziel was the only one on this list, I believe, that didn't win a national championship as well as Michael Vick. So, Nick, what about I know you were asking about that, but how would you grade guys that were high draft picks but didn't do as well in college? Do you think they should be on this list?
I think so, just because this is just a college football ranking. This is not how you did in the NFL. So a lot of these guys were top picks. Dan Marino obviously had an amazing career with the Dolphins, back in the 80s. Testaverde, I don't know where he was picked, but he got drafted in the NFL. Andrew Luck was the number 1 overall pick to the Colts. Sam Bradford went to the Rams when they were very dysfunctional. Johnny Manziel entered the first round to the Browns. Vic, Falcons. Tim Tebow, that was a whole thing, to the Broncos, but he had some success. Cam Newton, number 1 overall pick. Trevor Lawrence, number 1 overall pick. Joe Burrow, number 1 overall pick. So it's interesting that you bring that up about Joe. Like, it's 1 year. You could also say that about Cam in a way. Cam was at Florida. To me, Cam, I love Cam. So Cam was at Florida. Everyone knows. Sat behind Tim Tebow. Won a national championship behind Tim Tebow. Wasn't obviously the guy, but he still gets credit for that. Had that whole laptop scandal. Goes to junior college. Balls out. Wins a championship there. You could say whatever about that, but he does. Then he goes to Auburn. Gene Chizik was the coach. And then went on that miraculous run where they beat Oregon in the national championship. So physically, I think Cam is the greatest player of all time. Physically. Body, he could throw it. Keep in mind, if you want to keep going with the NFL thing, he won MVP and he made it to a Super Bowl, just like Joe. Both of them lost. So I think if you're just going with college, you don't need to include their NFL success, but you could throw in where they got drafted. But most of these guys are top picks. Vince Young was the number 2 pick of the draft.
I believe all these
behind
guys
Matt Leinart. Matt Leinart should be on the top 10 list. Why is Matt Leinart not on here? He won 2 national championships and a Heisman.
Exactly. He's another snub. Him and Vince Young. And most of these guys were first-round picks. Like, actually, I think all these guys were first-round picks in the NFL.
What about Matthew Stafford?
Yeah, Matthew Stafford also with Georgia, but did they? I don't think they won a championship. Did they? Did they win that?
But if you just no, they didn't win a championship. Those teams were always disappointed because I think they had Noshawn and AJ Green at the same time, and they didn't do as much as they should have. But just pure talent, because that's a different conversation. Like, is it talent versus accomplishments? That's why I would have Burrow and Cam up there. But if it was just talent and you didn't maybe fulfill it all, I think Stafford would have to be somewhere on my list just because he's obviously done a lot in the NFL.
And Nick, would you still include Trevor Lawrence in your top 10? And if you do, how much credit do you give him for beating Nick Saban's team as a true freshman when he was at the top of his game, Coach Saban?
I mean, that was awesome. That was awesome.
And they annihilated them too.
They did. They beat Kelly Bryant was the starter at the beginning of the year for Clemson, and then he got benched. And so no, that was freaking awesome. I mean, Trevor Lawrence was this guy that was like, this is why it's different than Burrow, right? Because we knew about him in 8th grade. He comes up, wins a championship his first year, dips a little in his production, dips a little in his productivity, ends up losing a national championship to Joe Burrow. So I still think he's top 10. He is extremely talented. He's kind of been the same guy in the NFL, though. He's been up and down. He's been on the Jaguars. Like, what is he? Is he top 10 talent-wise? Yeah, but doesn't always produce the same way. And that's when Dabo was rolling. Deshaun had already won one.
Yep.
Not taking anything away from him, but he would be lower on my top 10. And I would want to insert a guy like Matt Leinart in there. Matt Leinart did a lot.
For sure. And I would put Matt Leinart actually over Vinny Testaverde. I would still keep Andrew Luck. I'll still keep Bradford, but I would put also Vince Young and Matt Leinart in there, but I would drop Trevor Lawrence at number 2. That's just a fun discussion that we had.
Yeah, that was good.
Obviously change. Hopefully Arch Manning, maybe he'll be on this list. I'm number 2. I'm just putting it out there as a Texas fan. So our last topic of the day is the toughest places to play. This is just the SEC. So LSU came at number 1, but DKR, Texas Stadium, came in at number 10. So Nick, should Texas Stadium be ranked higher?
No, I don't think so. I think the teams that are ahead of them are more fierce. They're probably there more even when Texas is down. You got to give credit to those schools. So let's just run through the top 10 real quick. LSU, Tennessee, Florida, South Carolina, Auburn, Georgia, A&M, Alabama, Oklahoma, and Texas. Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable flipping us with Oklahoma.
Yes.
I am not comfortable moving us any higher than that. And that says a lot. I still think we're a great stadium. I still think we're a tough place to play. But there's a lot of things in Texas. People want to tailgate. People want to drink. People want to, they're not always hyped. They're kind of like the Lakers a little bit in LA, where wait till the second half to get things going. Prove it to me why we should be going for you. We're in Austin. There's a lot going on. Compared to these other towns, there's not as much going on in all of them. Right? New Orleans, there's always a lot going on in New Orleans. But just going through the top 5, what would be in my top 5, I do want to give some credit to Kyle Field, but they don't win any games there. Right? It's an electric atmosphere. And even as a Longhorn, I'm like, that looks freaking awesome. You get the Longhorn dude just like, even though while they're going crazy, like that is pretty lit, but they don't win the big games there. They lost to Notre Dame. They lost to us. They're going to lose some more this year. So they would be 7's a good spot for them, but they're not going to be in my top 3. LSU easily number 1. I just think it's an incredibly tough place to play. You got the Tiger, you got Mike the freaking Tiger. How is that not intimidating to go into there at night? Those people are crazy. It's Louisiana. They're nuts. Okay, this is where it gets interesting for me because when Tennessee is really good, yes, they can be number 2, and it's probably the biggest stadium. I just don't know if they're number 2 for me. I'm going to put Georgia at number 2. I think Georgia, I'm going on a limb here. Part of it is that record that you're talking about. They've won 40-something games in a row at home. I mean, yeah, they're freaking loaded, and Kirby's there, and they've had all these guys there. But damn it, if it's not for their crowd, and they're in Athens, and they don't care about anything else except for Georgia football. So I would have LSU 1, Georgia 2. I don't think that's right. I'm tripping. I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go LSU 1. I'm gonna go Alabama 2, Georgia 3, and then I'm gonna filter in the Tennessees and the Floridas. The reason why I'm doing this is because I think even if LSU, Georgia, Alabama are down, I still think it's a very, very hard place to play. There have been many times that people have gone into Tennessee, Florida, Auburn, and beaten them when they're not that good, right? So I'm basing it off of that. Alabama's got an insane record of Texas was the first team in a long time to beat Saban at home. So I would got LSU easily number 1, Alabama underrated very, very hard, and then I would have Georgia 3rd, and then you can go Tennessee and Florida after that. I think it just depends on how good they actually are.
No, for real. And Nick Saban had an insane overall record. Just to get back to your point, 201 wins and only 29 losses. People
sleep on that. People sleep on Alabama being a tough place to play. It's a hard place to play.
Exactly. So no, I agree with that. So I would actually just talk about Texas first before I go in my top 5. Texas Stadium is not in the top 5 in my opinion, but I'll just tell you where I have to get ranked. I think Alabama should be number 7. They should flip with College Station. I would actually put Texas at number 8 instead of Bryant-Denny Stadium. I would replace Kyle Field will be number 9 with Oklahoma. I just think with Kyle Field, they're a tough place to play, but their traditions are really weird. And like Nick has said, there's been teams that have
They don't
won.
win.
Like I'll give you Clemson. Trevor Lawrence as a true freshman went in there and beat A&M, Notre Dame.
Right.
Like there's been some teams that have beat them. So at home. And I just think that, yes, they can get rowdy and stuff, but they had the whole 12th man thing. Well, the 12th man hasn't translated into actually winning games. So, and College Station, that's the only thing in town compared to Austin, Texas. Like Nick said it perfectly, Austin is like Los Angeles, California. There's the lake. You can go to a comedy show. You can go eat barbecue.
Yeah,
You can
right.
So
you
many,
can drive
so
up to
much-
Dallas and see a Cowboys game. Like
Exactly.
there's other things to do in Austin. Not an excuse. Our fans that should actually be rowdier, and we're rowdy when we're good, but it's not to the level that some of these other schools are at for sure.
Even though I do think that with CDC has really improved the home atmosphere, the drone show,
100%.
the drone show at night, Bevo Boulevard, I actually think we can creep. Once we win a national championship, I think we can creep into the top 5 because who said, Will Anderson, the defensive end from Alabama, the year that he got drafted said, Austin, Texas, DKR was one of the toughest places I've ever played in my career. And he spent 3 years in the SEC. That's a big thing when Will Anderson, the number 3 overall pick, says that. And that was a day game, I believe, Nick. The first at home, that was
That's when
11 a.m.
Quinn Ewers had long hair and he like popped his shoulder and we ended up losing a close one. 2019 or something like that. We
got screwed, by the way, with that safety with Bryce Young in the end zone, but whatever. Okay, let me go to my top 5. So LSU, hands down, Death Valley at night, really hard to win. LSU's record is basically unbeatable, really hard to win. I would actually put South Carolina Stadium at number 2 when they play that. I just think that they can get so rowdy and they play that song. They have this famous song that they play that I can't remember that they do. Everybody gets all hyped to.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put Jordan Hare Stadium at number 3 because nobody wants to go to Jordan Hare Stadium. I don't care how good or bad Auburn is. Like that's a hard place to play. Mm-hmm. Georgia's going to find it out.
A&M just lost to them too.
Right. Sanford Stadium, I'll put at number 4. I've been to one game at Sanford Stadium, actually, even though it was a day game. The Georgia fans were into it. They have their whole, they paint their face black, they wear red, so they can get into it a lot. So Georgia would be number 4. I would actually put Tennessee at 5 because Tennessee can get really rowdy and they love football there. And then I would put Florida at number 6 just because it's known as a swamp. The humidity in Florida can get really high. It can be really tough place to play. The fans are kind of right on top of them. And then I would put Bryant-Denny Stadium at 7, DKR at 8, Kyle Field at 9, and then I'll put Ole Miss Stadium at 10. So there's some great, stadiums to play in the SEC, and Texas is, as they start rotating the schedule, Texas fans are going to be able to experience some of these stadiums, and it's going to be really fun as Texas plays in these rowdy road environments. But don't sleep on DKR, Longhorns fans. I think that we can be a top 5 stadium to play in the country, especially after we win a national championship. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode of Touchdown Texas. We hope you enjoyed our content. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us at touchdown_Texas. SEC Media Day is a week from tomorrow. Texas is going to be in Atlanta. All the players are going to be there, talking to the media and everything. Me and Nick are going to react to what we heard from the players. There's going to be a lot more polls of the teams, of the quarterbacks, who's going to win the SEC. This is your place to be for all our Longhorns content. But until then, we'll see you next time.